and welcome back to 20 Questions With. And today's guest is also a Lotus owner and an automotive photographer. So please welcome George Williams. Hiya, George, you all right?
Hello, everyone.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you for joining me. I know in your busy schedule, I thought finally talk with someone that also has a huge passion for Lotus like myself.
Yeah, and it's been a busy time with my car recently.
That's amazing. So we're going to jump straight into the 10 quickfire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. So first off, favourite car?
My car, my Lotus.
Favourite track?
Probably Silverstone, just because I know it quite well.
And cats or dogs?
Cats, got one.
Your go-to 3-course meal at a restaurant?
Oh, steak and chips. Don't know about starter. Skip the starter and go for a dessert of like a brownie or a sticky toffee.
Good choice. And your most inspirational driver?
Oh, that's tricky. Maybe Power Slide Lover, just because I like the way he drives the most.
That's awesome.
And he's a nutter.
And if you had to pick a sport that isn't motorsport, what would it be?
Oh, do I have to? I got kind of into cycling last year.
Oh.
That was a bit of a lockdown hobby, but yeah, maybe cycling.
Still counts.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Are you a morning or evening person?
Evening person.
And your go-to hobby?
Messing around with my car.
And the scariest thing you've ever done?
Oh, I don't know about scary, but one of the coolest things I've done was go up in a fighter jet, which was out there.
And last but not least, if you had to describe yourself in just one word, what would it be?
Probably photographer.
I like that one.
What I do.
But you're halfway through already. That's the first 10 done.
Oh, done in 5 minutes. Great.
Be ready for lunch.
Yeah.
So we'll go a bit more into the 10 in-depth questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So start off nice and easy. Where did it all start for you?
In terms of photography and my career, it started taking photos for fun of my dad's cars, just as an excuse just to move them around. And a little while later, I got a bit bored of just taking photos on the driveway. So I asked on piston heads if anyone had a car I could photograph.
Oh.
And that then led to me doing a couple of shoots, and people liked the pictures, more people wanted shoots, and it led on from there. Of course, this is the days before Instagram even existed, I think. But from there, I built my photography knowledge, I built my contacts, and it developed into what is now for about 10 years a career.
Wow, so it really snowballed then.
Yeah, and I'm such a car nut, as anyone that knows me will agree with, that kind of the cars are what I do this for. Like, I love photography, I love trying and doing new things, but I just want to be around the cars.
That's where it's all at.
Yeah, exactly.
So where did it actually start for your love of cars then?
Well, my father had a Caterham 7 when I was growing up. So going to Sunday morning drives and that kind of thing was probably quite a contributing factor. And I think once you've had a Caterham in the family, you always need a Caterham in the family, something that is missing at the moment. My girlfriend's dad also had a Caterham while she was growing up, so it sticks with you. But yeah, I think that was the contributing factor that made me love cars so much. Just, it's so much fun.
That's amazing. And over the past few years, I think you said 10 years, what different barriers have you experienced and how did you actually overcome them?
I guess trying to stay motivated while self-employed, and kind of pushing through the challenging times when you feel like you're not good enough to be doing certain things, and that kind of time. That's the stuff I find hard, because like work will naturally go quiet every so often. It's just, it goes through cycles, times of years, etc., etc. And sometimes you'll be taking on jobs you don't want to do just because you need to pay the bills. And you've just got to be like, right, I need to get my work back up to where I think it should be, and doing the bigger jobs, which is what I always strive towards.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's probably the most difficult thing that I have to overcome quite often as well.
I think, like you say, self-employed, it's like a little roller coaster. It's always ups and downs, and you're going to have those challenges that time's a bit quiet. I think when I run the chocolate business, Christmas was absolutely packed. Summer, there was no orders. And it's just trying to learn the trends and kind of keep the positive mental attitude that it will get better. It's just working for it.
Yeah, and you actually can't really plan for it much. I mean, you probably can with the chocolate business, but and I used to know that pre-Geneva, it would go mental with work, and I would be working every hour of the day. But that was the only time of year that I really had a clue that it was going to be specifically busy.
Yeah, that you could predict.
Yeah. So now I know it's always fairly steady, which is nice at the moment.
Settles down a little bit.
Yeah, it's just been constantly busy for the last 6 months, which is quite nice.
Can't complain, especially after COVID.
Yeah, I needed it.
So within the industry, do you think there's been a change over the last 10 years, and especially towards women coming into the automotive side?
I think there has been. I mean, I have noticed it more because my girlfriend Tilly is going towards working in the automotive sector, and I see how people react to her. I also see how amazing she is at her job, and people not necessarily giving her the credit she always deserves. I think the same goes towards young people as well in the industry, that some of them are better than they get credit for, and just because of someone's age doesn't mean that they don't deserve as much credit. And it's something I experienced when I was going into the industry. So there are barriers still there. I think things are getting better. I mean, ultimately, it just needs to be an equal playing field, and anyone should be able to do it. I think motorsport is actually pushing forward quite nicely, and people don't judge quite as much in the motorsport world as the automotive sector. And there is a difference between them, but it is getting better. And I think because I care about Tilly so much, I'm really noticing when other people do things like that, more so than other people would. And it's just about being kind and being nice to other people, and more people need to just think about that, I think.
Definitely. Kindness costs nothing as well.
Exactly.
Definitely. And I think, like you mentioned, with age as well, and also being female, you almost have to prove yourself more. It's like people don't ability, and you have to work your way towards it a little bit more, rather than being sort of an older male. You instantly, people trust you, and being that bit younger as well, you have to really work for it. Be like, no, I do know what I'm doing, but they don't quite trust you yet until you've proven yourself. Yeah,
and I've spent the last 10 years trying to prove myself that I'm trustworthy, that people can give me a car and I'm not going to be a total idiot and things like that. And you just have to push through those stages, and that's part of life, unfortunately. Nothing happens instantly, and unfortunately people won't just fixed and women are equal. It's a stage that needs to be overcome, and the good thing is that people are working towards it
step by step.
Exactly.
So the question that I've been waiting for anyway, I don't know about anyone else, tell me more about your Lotus project, and how with sort of how slow mirrors and all like your little everything Lotus basically. The coming out of me now.
So I bought my car just over 5 years ago now. And I've done a lot of miles in my car. I've over 40,000 miles since I bought it. So it's one of the highest mileage Exiges, and considering this year I haven't driven it much at all, and to be honest, last year either. But I have always loved modifying cars. I just can't help myself. I see a car and I see something I can do to improve it, and I just want to make that extra step. And I'm not saying my mods will be for everyone, but up to now, I've always tried to keep them fairly tasteful. Now we're going slightly over the point where some people might be a bit offended. But the mods started, what did I start with? I started with an exhaust, kind of the usual stuff, the stages people go through.
Yeah.
And then I went to Automotive, drove their 460 demo, and I had to have it. So my car has the 460 kit, which means 460 horsepower, and it's charge cooled as well. So it's quite a reliable 460 horsepower. And I haven't had a single issue with that kit. I then did, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not driving it, so I can't have any issues. Yeah, I did suspension, brakes, all that stuff. And then I bought some mirrors from America. I had a bit of a nightmare with them that they just broke. And the guy was a bit of a nightmare, not very pleasant, to be totally honest. And I thought, well, why are these mirrors made out of 3D printing? And this was it was a few years ago, so 3D printing wasn't where it is now. 3D printing's come a long way in the last couple of years, much more strong, and it's not just prototype parts anymore. You can actually use it properly. But I was of the belief that a solid bit of aluminium, well, that's not going to break. So I got these mirror stalks made by Lee Autobahn Engineering. He kind of, between us, we did the design, and I think the design is lovely personally. Not for everyone, but I love them, and they also offer better visibility. So I now sell mirrors, although our supply is very limited, unfortunately. I wish we could sell more, but it's one of those things. But yeah, we're making progress, and I think we've sold something like 300 sets now. So it is quite a big number, surprising number, because they're not cheap, but I designed them to have, and I didn't intend to sell them when I designed them. I wanted one set for my car, and then other people wanted them. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, if I have to. And yeah, so that's done quite well. So that was kind of the business element that I run on the side. It's not much of a business, if I'm totally honest, and I really don't make much money, just because the parts cost so much, because doing things properly. But yeah, then on the interior, I retrimmed the whole interior, and I went through a bit of a project to replace the air vents, which turned into quite a large project. So it started with Mercedes air vents and basically cutting up the dash and filling it, and then I got it trimmed. And then more recently, I got Ferrari air vents put in from a Ferrari F12, which they're actually titanium.
Okay.
So they're really high quality and very, very hard to cut, because I had to cut them up to make them fit. So that was the interior project. And then I kind of felt like I'd finished the interior and I couldn't really improve it. I was starting to get a little bit bored of kind of thinking, should I get rid of the car and go and buy a Caterham? Like, I've got a unique car that's so modified anyway. The next step, which I kind of always wanted to do, but it's a full commit stage.
Yeah.
Was the exterior of the car, and I'd always left it fairly subtle on the exterior for a bright yellow car. But I didn't have big spoilers and stuff like that, and like stickers all over it or anything like that. I tried to keep it reasonably subtle.
Yeah.
This next stage isn't. So it's another bright colour. It's a full respray in paint. I've also facelifted the car with a new front end clam, which is the same as the 430 Cup.
Okay.
And a rear end clam that's the same as the Sport 410. Or is from a Sport 410. And then I've got the 430 boot lid, the carbon one, which we're going to paint so that you can't see the carbon anymore so much. And I've also done quite a lot of aero stuff. So huge custom rear wing that I designed, and then Lee again, who makes the mirror stalks, made the uprights for it. So it's a top mounted wing, and then because it's going to be quite large numbers of downforce, if we were to run max angle of attack, I'd have 150 kilograms of downforce on the rear at 100 mile an hour. So we're not going to run full angle. But I had to balance it on the front. So we've got diffuser tunnels on the front splitter and vents, etc., etc. So there's quite a lot going on. So it's going to look totally different. And then I bought a set of wheels from America, HRE wheels, which was terrifyingly expensive. But they are, to me, the best wheels that you can get. And I felt like if I was going to all this effort, I should really kind of finish it and do it properly in one stage. So this is the end goal with the car. And then once it's all done, we'll launch it. We'll do a nice release video, and I can go around Europe photographing it, basically. So that's the plan.
And when do you think it'll be ready for?
Well, I don't know exactly. I don't want to push people too hard on deadlines. I think early next year in reality, but then it will need to be detailed, and it's like there's always more work than you think there's going to be. So
definitely,
if it's done for when spring comes around, I'll be very happy.
I can't wait to see it. That sounds amazing. Like I say, it's just one of a kind.
Yeah, and it's a colour that's not been done on a Lotus before as well.
That's intriguing. I'm trying to think now.
Yeah, and I waited deliberately for Lotus to finish production on the Exige, because I didn't want someone to then go and spec that colour. Whereas it's a lot more difficult to go and copy a colour once they've all finished production. Yeah,
that's a good plan. That sounds amazing. So obviously you're looking at photographing it around Europe, but with all of your photography, what's been sort of the best project for you?
There's been lots, to be honest. It's hard to pick one. A couple that off the top of my head. So the McLaren P1, which is actually the picture up there, that was the launch of the P1 in Bahrain, and it was quite early on in my career. It was early 2013. And just to get to shoot that car, and it really raised my career up a level. So that's sort of the main one. And then I shot Maserati's campaign to launch all of their cars for 2018. So in terms of scale of shoot, that was the one.
Yeah.
And then there's just loads of road trips, which are just fun.
That sounds a lot of amazing experiences then, and lots of cars you get to get up close and personal with that you necessarily do normally.
Yeah, and I get to shoot lots of hypercars, supercars. I'm very lucky in that respect. And I've almost pigeonholed myself a little bit into that sector.
Yeah.
I can shoot normal cars, obviously. It's the same concept. But I also would say I'm quite good at shooting hypercars and supercars. And I'm such a car enthusiast that I get how a potential customer will want to see it.
Yeah.
And that's half the stage of understanding how to shoot it.
The vision.
Yeah.
Amazing. I bet you're that sort of there though, secretly just wanting to go and drive them all.
Oh yeah, and I have driven quite a few, which is crazy. So a friend of mine kindly invited me to co-drive with him in his P1 round Greece recently. And that is just such a bucket list tick. Like, does it get any better?
That's amazing. It's like dream car, and then also somewhere beautiful like Greece. You can't get better than that.
Yeah, I don't think I ever will. So
that's amazing. So we've talked a little bit about Lotus. So you've already said you're a massive Caterham fan as well. It's where it all begun. So what do you think for yourself is the main difference between the Lotus and the Caterham, and why have you gone for a Lotus at the moment over a Caterham?
So I used to own a Caterham. Well, first of all, my father had one whilst I was growing up, so it was always in my blood, and I always knew what they were like. I then bought my own Caterham. I did like 7,000 miles in a year in it, and then I decided, like, I was a bit fed up in winter of the Caterham because I wanted to drive it constantly, but it was just that bit too impractical. And I literally drove past Bell and Colville, saw the liquid yellow Exige, and went, I'd quite like that. And I went in thinking, oh, I can't afford it. I was 24 at the time. I can't afford it. Talked to Jamie. Maybe I can afford it. So bought that, but sold my Mercedes estate. So I had two cars, a Caterham and a Lotus, thinking, oh, well, I'll just daily drive the Exige. And that lasted about a year of having both those two cars.
Fair play.
And I realised that given the choice, I'd always take the Lotus.
Yeah.
Because it's just that bit more practical. You've got a radio, it's faster, it's more comfy. It's like the actual practicalities of using a car, the Lotus kind of won. And also my Caterham had 150 horsepower and the Lotus at the time had 350. So it was quite a big difference in performance. Whereas nowadays, if I were to step back into one, I would go right at the top of the Caterham spectrum and get the quickest I could. But so a Lotus is more practical, but a Caterham is more fun to throw around, and they're half the weight. It's about 500 kilos for a Caterham versus 1,100 for the Lotus, so it is noticeably different.
Yeah.
And you go out in a Caterham just for fun. You don't go there to get in it to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Whereas the Lotus, you kind of want a destination. That's the difference to me.
Amazing. And I think as well, I found personally, Lotus was a lot more snappy, whereas the Caterham was a lot more predictable, if that makes sense.
At low speed, yes. And then at high speed, no. Because a Caterham, they'll slide around like cones and stuff perfectly and really well, but then they have so much rear end grip at high speed that if you try and slide it, it will grip up the moment you let off the throttle. So they're actually quite hard to slide at a quick speed. Whereas because in a Lotus you have a lot more weight behind you, you can use the momentum to your advantage. Maybe less so in an Elise, but the Exige, it has a heavy engine behind you, and you can use that to your advantage. So I actually find the Exige more fun to slide around, but at high speeds.
Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list, is to track a Caterham, because I've done the Elise, I've done the Exige. Like I say, the Exige is a lot heavy. You can feel the weight in it a lot more than the Elise. The Elise is quite short, snappy, great through the tight tracks, whereas the Exige is better on the open stretch.
That's what it comes down to. The Exige on a track like Silverstone is fantastic, but somewhere like Brands Hatch, it doesn't suit so much. I mean, it's still good, but a Caterham round Brands Hatch is way more fun.
Definitely. Whereas somewhere massive with big Ferraris and Porsches coming next year in a little Caterham, you kind of a bit like, ooh.
Yeah, and ultimately they're not that quick in a straight because they have so much drag.
Yeah.
Like even a 620R, which has 300 plus horsepower, it's still not that quick on a straight on a track. Especially somewhere like Silverstone, where it is a lot of flat, straight corners kind of thing. It's not tight, nimble. Like Cadwell is so perfectly suited for them because it's a small track. There's lots of tight, nippy corners, and they always perform. Yeah, although I had a bad experience as a 16-year-old kid. My brother crashed my dad's Caterham. So yeah, I haven't been back to Cadwell since that.
Whereabouts did he crash it?
I couldn't tell you the corner. It was a fast right-hander is all I remember.
Oh God. So I bet your dad wasn't best pleased.
He was not very happy. It did mean we could respray the car a new colour, and it had a long front chassis, which actually in a Caterham really isn't that much of a problem because you just weld a new front chassis on and basically just rebuild the whole car. So it's not actually much of an issue at all, apart from the cost of doing so.
Yeah, it always comes down to cost.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Amazing. So looking into the future, what are your aspirations now?
I have spent way too much on my car over the last couple of years, and it's like a bad obsession. So once I have finished this stage, I want to just basically build up some savings, prioritize house stuff a bit, basically be a grown-up, it's really boring, but I also want to build my career up a little bit, push into new avenues that I haven't done before, and kind of chase that larger scale job, which is genuinely really difficult to do, but that's why you get better rewards for it. So that's what I'm aiming towards.
Fingers crossed.
Basically. So we'll see.
I'm moving back into the past now. What is your favorite standout memory that you've had over the past 10 years?
Oh god, that's difficult. I mean, it's all the road trips I've done. The road trips with mates are what I love. And probably the one that stands out the most was actually the beginning of 2020, when I took my Exige with one of my mates, and we drove it through the night to get to Italy, on winter tyres, and it was snowy when we arrived.
Oh wow.
We met Power Slide Lover, basically had a day messing around. I drove his Ferrari SP2 Monza, which is just an incredible car. Freezing because it was winter and there's no windscreen. And then the next day we drove home. So we did, I think it was like 1,500, 2,000 miles in 2 days. I mean, it's something silly like that. Just a proper adventure, which I feel like is very difficult to do at the moment.
Just as a side note, I'm just interested in your opinion. How do you find driving the Lotus at night? Because personally, I don't know if it's because I'm shorter bodied, so I sit really low in it, but I got blinded by absolutely everybody.
Yeah, and the headlights are also terrible. I don't know how they got those approved for the road. It's not particularly enjoyable. You just kind of suck it up and get on with it, I guess.
Yeah, just pray for the destination.
I sit reasonably low because I got the tillet seats. I mean, I'm about 6 foot tall, but I've still got tillet seats, so I sit as low as I possibly can. It's still terrible.
That was one of the reasons for myself, was the practicality of it, being an only car and being here, there and everywhere. A 3-hour journey one day, 7-hour the next kind of thing. It just wasn't practical.
And I also found the cost of running it just got so high when it was my only car, and I had that pressure of I have to make sure the car works the whole time, and I couldn't make it much of a project car if I have to have the guaranteed reliability. And it's been pretty good on the whole, but for example, now it's been off the road since August. So, I mean, that could never happen if it was my only car. So
walking everywhere.
So.
Amazing. So, second to last question. What are your top 3 tips for anyone trying to make it in the automotive world, whether that be on photography, YouTube, driving? Just 3 general tips.
So I think photography-wise, certainly automotive photography-wise, focus on the actual photography, not just the car. Go and actually take the car somewhere interesting. Think about the story of it. Think about more than just, here's a car. There's more to it than that. When lighting a car, do it for a reason. Don't do it just because you can. Use it to make that picture better. And kind of teach, accept that you're not as good as you think you are, and work out why that is and develop from that. Don't be afraid of, if everyone tells you're amazing, that doesn't help you that much. Whereas if you can find someone that will tell you that you're not amazing, but why, so you actually learn from it, that is more useful.
Exactly. Someone honest.
Yeah, and do that yourself. Like if you're looking at pictures, for example, in a magazine, and you're looking at your pictures and going, well, mine aren't as good, work out why that is. I can look at a picture in a magazine and work out exactly how they've shot it.
Yeah.
And I regularly do, to work. Like, it's just curiosity and self-learning, right?
Exactly.
So
people are so afraid of criticism, but in reality, it's the only way you're ever going to improve.
Yeah, and people are a bit too protected nowadays, that they think that they're amazing when they're not necessarily.
Yeah, you can never stop learning.
Exactly.
Amazing. So the final question, we're nearly there.
Cool.
There. So for everyone watching out there, what is your best advice for them in the automotive world?
Enjoy it. It should be for fun. Like, too many people take themselves far too seriously. I look at my car. Some people will be offended by what I'm doing. It's a bit of fun. Like, come on. I nearly painted it pink. It's not going pink. But I was very close. And when I was going to, and I announced that I would, I realised that so many people take themselves far too seriously and like offended. It's a colour. Come on. Like you go to these car meets and everyone is there because they're a car enthusiast. And we may not like the same things, but at least have an appreciation for why other people like different things.
Exactly.
And that's something Kathy and the Machine are so good at, and I really like it there, because they will love any car that turns up for whatever reason, and they appreciate why everyone's a car enthusiast.
They will, I think, get back, sort of ground everyone, don't they? Because like you say, too many people are like, oh, I don't like that kind of car, that's horrible. But we all love cars at the end of the day, whether you like that one or not, you can still appreciate the passion someone's put into it. Yeah,
and I wouldn't necessarily go and buy that thing, but I can vaguely understand why some people would.
Yeah.
So, yeah, be more inclusive, be more open-minded.
And enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. You survived the 20 questions.
Cool, thank you.
Hopefully not too terrifying or difficult.
No, it's fine.
That's amazing. We didn't get too many spoilers about what's up to come with your projects, unfortunately.
No, it's mainly the colour that's the biggest thing. And I'm trying to keep that to myself as much as possible for now.
I bet it's quite difficult though.
It is, yeah, and I know that it will have more impact and be more exciting for people if I just keep it to myself for a while. So when we do a really cool release, and I've got some really cool stuff planned for the release video, that makes it more enjoyable and more special.
Yeah.
So
that's exciting. Yeah. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you. Cool.
Well, thank you ever so much for joining me today. It's been great fun and amazing to hear about your Lotus car. I've seen it all over Instagram before. I've driven Exiges with the mirrors and everything, so it's really nice to hear the story behind it all.
Cool. Thank you.
Right, well, take care.
Yes, you too. Bye.
So you guys know the drill. We're back here every Monday at 6. So for now, to make my journey your journey, like, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.